a lot of you may or may not know that I graduated from George Washington University in Washington, D.C. They gave me an academic scholarship. I went up to GW, had a good time, graduated. And during the time that I was there, the George Washington University was known as the George Washington Colonials. Our mascot was the Colonial, and we have a George Washington mascot who would run around dressed like a colonial general managing the colonial army. Now, there has been a determination made by imbeciles at my alma mater that the Colonial is an offensive mascot, and so they are having to move on from it. I am reading from an official email from George Washington University, which, by the way, is right now, I believe, around $70,000 a year to attend. One of the most expensive schools in the entire nation when you factor in tuition, room, and board. I'd like to mention again that I was a scholarship kid who graduated in 3 years. Oh, by the way, not trying to brag or draw attention to myself because that's not who I am. But here is the message from GW. I'm writing to give you a confidential heads up, which will be announced publicly later today. This was not really that confidential of a heads up, by the way. This is sent out to a lot of alums. After thoughtful and deliberate process, the university's Board of Trustees has decided to discontinue the use of the Colonials moniker. It's a mascot. A new moniker will be introduced by the 2023-24 academic year. Until that time, we will continue to be the Colonials. The decision was not taken lightly. What's important is that we move forward to identify a moniker that will unite and unify the GW community and increase pride in our institution, with a moniker that reflects the values, strengths, and diversity of our worldview. The selection of our new moniker will require a deliberate and thoughtful process. And anyway, all of this is total and complete crap. And it's probably not going to surprise you that everybody out there has recognized, who has a functional brain, that this makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And by the way, I'm reading from one of my friends who's an alum who sent me this, and this is from one of the statements that's out there. The special committee identified a significant difference in connotation for the term colonials. For supporters, the term refers to those who lived in the American colonies, especially those who fought for independence and democracy. For opponents, colonials means colonizers who stole land and resources from indigenous groups, killed or exiled native people, and introduced slavery into the colonies. These are perspectives that cannot be easily harmonized, the committee concluded. Use and popularity. Okay, so here's the deal. The people who believe that they are opposed to the term colonials are wrong, all right? There has to be a right and wrong with the historical record. George Washington led the colonial army. The colonial army was made up of British colonists who decided they no longer wanted to be ruled by a foreign land, and so they were going to take arms up against those who would rule and oppress them. This is what the story of America is. That's why we fought a Revolutionary War. The colonial army overthrew the people who turned them into colonies and created independence for America, which led to the new birth of a nation. The colonials were the people fighting against the colonizers. I understand that people are dumb in America and that lots of people are too dumb to understand basic facts. But your goal as a university is not to placate idiocy. It is to educate. That is why universities exist. And so I say to anyone who is also an alum of George Washington University, we as a school failed. This is an embarrassment. This is outrageous. This is the opposite of education. It is ignorance. And so I can tell you that as one of, certainly, the most esteemed alums of George Washington University, I am done with supporting this university in an academic fashion, in a financial fashion. You will never get another dollar from me. And as probably one of the wealthier alums of the recent generation to graduate from GW, good move, Board of Trustees, you absolute imbeciles. You have made yourselves the laughingstock of America, and you have managed to completely erase the entire purpose of a university for existing by deciding that the word Colonials is offensive. And I just got to be honest with you. This is where all of this woke absurdity leads, to where you have to undertake things that are patently ridiculous in a mascot perspective, all right? This is what I've been saying for a long time. It doesn't ever end. They are going to, mark my words, they are going to at some point also decide that George Washington, the founder of our country, is too offensive to some people because he owned slaves and because he was a white guy. And so at some point, when you take away Colonials, you are effectively attacking the history of George Washington himself. And it will not end here. There is going to be a demand that the university itself's name be changed and that it's not appropriate to call a university George Washington University. I'm telling you, that's where it's coming. And for someone who grew up, went to school here, got a degree, I hate that you are helping to destroy the value of my degree by making George Washington University a laughingstock.